to Photoshop. So in today's class, we are going to talk about different layers modifications that you can do and some other things that you can do with layers. So basically, we're going to play with layers in the first part of the course, simply by using Control T, what we have saw a little bit before. Then we're going to link layers and create groups of layers, and I'll show you why it's really useful. So let's start. All right, so basically we should be somewhere, well, you should have our poster somewhere right here, or you should have your image somewhere ready. So for the purpose of this course, we are going to select only one layer. Well, just for the beginning, we're going to select only one layer and work with it. So let's take the image right here. So right now, what you will do, you will click on Control T. So what we'll do, we'll simply grow this image to make it bigger. So right now, basically what you can do as modification to this image. So as we talked a little bit before, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. So we are going to click on Control T. But not only this, you can also play with the form of the image. In other words, let's say, for example, I'm clicking on Control. I can modify my image and put it, well, give it some, well, change the form of my image. So in this case, for example, I can create, for example, a triangle if I want to, once again. So here I'll be able to make a triangle with my image, which is pretty cool. So basically this can add some, well, it depends on what type of projects you want to do. But basically this can add a lot of value to a project if you do it properly the right way. Once again, here I'm just making an example. Not only this, when you do your Control T, basically you can change that, well, you can move your image. So in other words, let's say, for example, I want to flip my image. So I can flip my image horizontally. So as you can see, my image have been flipped. So I will just reflip it. So as you can see, I go from here and I flip it horizontally. So it gets flipped. I can also flip it vertically if I want to. So as you can see here, I flip my image vertically. And yeah, so I can flip it horizontally, vertically. I can rotate my image, so 180 degrees. I can rotate it to 90 degrees, so put it like this, which is pretty cool. I can, well, I can do pretty much whatever I want with my image, and this is pretty interesting as well. So basically, as you can see, you have a lot of modifications that you can add, well, that you can do with your layers. So basically, those are just a few of them, and this is, well, basically just the beginning, and this is how you can change the form of your layers. Not only you can do this with one layer, you can do this with multiple layers as well. And this is where linking layers becomes important. So let's say, for example, I want to play with more than one layer at the same time. So let's say I have 1, 2, here 3 layers at the same time. And I want to put them one next to the other. So what I will do now, I will simply link those layers. And how exactly do I link the layers? It's pretty simple. So I will select my layers. So I will click on Shift. I will select all my layers. And what I'll do next, I will simply link them. So right now my layers are linked. So what does this mean? This means it became one image. So basically it became just one layer. So let's say I want to play with it. I want to move my layers. I can do it. So right now my layers are linked and I can move them however I want. Let's say I want to add another layer to it. And I want to link it as well. So I will just select all those layers, so the 4 of them, and simply link them together. And right now, each time that I move one layer, it's gonna move the whole, the 4 layers together. I cannot move one of those. I have to move the 4 of them. If I want to do it, I need to unlink the layer at first. So how do I unlink a layer from a set of layers? I simply click on the link button. So to link layers together, simply select the 4 or the amount of layers that you want, and you simply link them together. All right, so let's say I want to modify let's say I want to modify the whole set of layers. Pretty simple. I will just click on Control T. And once again, let's say I want to flip them. I can do the exact same thing. So I can flip it horizontally. I can flip them vertically. So I can do pretty much whatever I want with those layers. Let's say I want to modify them. I can do pretty much the same thing. So I can make them bigger, smaller. If I want to change their form, pretty simple. I just click on Control and I can change their form. I can make it bigger, smaller. So as you can see, if I want to create, well, some kind of effects. It's possible to do when you guys are linking the layers together. So once again, as you can see, those are some pretty cool things that you can do when you link layers together. So basically you can work with a lot of layers at the same time. All right, right now let's say that you guys have hundreds of layers, and let's say that you want to work with 4 layers at the time and not more. Instead of getting lost in your set of layers and being, let's say you're getting lost because you have a lot of layers, what you can do is you can put your set of layers inside of a group. And how exactly you do this? It's pretty simple. So right now we have linked our 4 layers that are right here, and what we want to do, let's say this is one part of our project that we want to put inside of a group. So what we'll do, we'll simply right click on those 4 layers. When it's done, we'll simply select those layers. We'll right click, and what you can do right now, you can group the layers. So here you have duplicate layers, delete layers, group from layers. So here we'll call it group 1, and we'll click on OK. So right now we have our group 1 that is right here, and it's consider it as a layer. So basically we can move it, we can change it, we can do whatever we pretty much want with this group. And when we open the group, we have our 4 layers right here. So basically if we wanna, well, we can do, as I said, we can do whatever we want with the group. So it works pretty much the same way as a layer. You can duplicate your group. So basically, as you can see here, you can duplicate it, you can delete it, and you can work, well, you work with the group. It's pretty much simple. So as you can see, what you will do, you will work with the whole group at the same time, which is pretty cool. So right now you learned how to link, how to create links, so basically how to link layers, how to create groups, and how to play with the layers at the same time. Now it's important to know how exactly you can get rid of the group. So let's say you have your group right here, and you don't want to have a group anymore for those layers. So what exactly you can do? It's pretty simple. You just right click, and you go right here and you click on delete group. So basically what you can do, you can delete the whole group and the content, and you can delete the group only. So basically the content will stay, but the concept of group will be deleted. So they will not be together. So here we deleted the group. So as you can see, the layers are still together and they're still linked together. Right now, if I want to unlink my layers, it's pretty simple. I will just, I can just right click, and here I click on the unlink button. So right now my layers are unlinked, and what I can do, right now I can work with just 1 layer at the time, which is pretty cool. So as you can see here, I have 1 layer. I can work with 1 layer at the time, which is pretty interesting. As you can see, it's pretty simple to do, and those are some basic modifications that you guys can do with the layers. As you can see, it's not complicated, it's just a question of practice. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class. Hello guys, and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to Photoshop. So in the past few classes, we talked about some features of layers, and in this class we are still going to talk about this topic. And basically what I want to cover today will be linking groups. So basically different ways that you guys can work with groups. So we talked about layers. Now we're going to talk about different ways that you can work with groups. And finally, merging layers. So basically how you can take all the layers, put them all together, and create only one picture. And we are also going to talk about, is it really worth it to do or no? So let's start. All right, so basically for the purpose of this course, what we will do, we are going to have some pictures. So basically here you can see I have a few pictures, and what I will do is that I will put all those pictures inside of one group. So basically, let's say I will select the tree. Well, first of all, I will unlink all of those pictures. All right, so they're not linked. So what I will do, I will take a few of those pictures and put them inside of groups. So basically I have one group here. So I will create a group, like always, group from layers. I'll call it group 1. I'll do the same thing right here with the 4 remaining layers. And I will create a group that I will call group number 2. All right, so basically you have your groups right here. What your groups allow you to do is basically well, plenty of things. But one of those, it allows you to work with just layers or groups. So what you can see right here is that you have this little tab there where you have group or layer. So basically, if I select layer, I can move each layer one by one. So basically, I can move the layer one by one. But if I, for example, select group, what will happen is that I will move the whole group at once. So basically here I can, for example, move the whole group number 2 at once. And here the group number 1, and here the whole group number 2 at once. Here the whole group number 1, here the whole group number 2. It works pretty much the same way as if I linked the layers together. And as you can see, it's pretty cool this way. So basically, this is a good thing that I can do if I have groups. Also, what I can do is I can take my group, so I can take my group right here and literally put it inside of group 1. So basically group 1 will become group 2. So basically I can merge two groups together. And basically if I want to move group 1, what's going to happen is that I will move all the layers together. So basically having groups or putting groups together is actually a great way for you guys to work, well, to control your workspace. Because what you can do is that, for example, you can have one group for, let's say, for example, you have a picture that you're working on. You can have one group for each part of the picture, and then you can link all the groups together in only one group. And basically, well, if you want to take a certain part of the picture, you can simply unmerge all the groups at once, or see all the groups at once. So basically, as you can see here, I can take out all the group and bring back all the group. I can do the same thing for the group number 2 that is inside of group number 1, which is pretty cool. As I said, if I want to delete groups, what I can do is that I can simply click on delete group or click on ungroup layers, and this is exactly what's going to happen. All right, next thing that we are going to talk about today will be merging layers. So basically, merging layers, what is exactly the concept of merging layers? It's pretty simple. It's basically the concept of putting layers together. So basically you take two layers and you create only one object with those two layers. So let's say, for example, we have two layers right here. So how we can create, well, only, well, move them at once? It's pretty simple. We can, for example, link those layers. So let's say we select the two layers right here. So we have linked those layers, and it's like, it looks like it's the same layer, but it's not the same layer. It's two separate layers together. You can, for example, move them as one. Once again, if you select layers or layer right here, you can put them inside of one group, and once again move the whole group. It will look like it's one layer or only one object, but once again it's two objects. But if you want to put those two layers inside of one object and create only one layer with them, what you need to do is you need to merge them together. So we will unlink those layers, and what we'll do, we'll simply merge them. So here you have merge layers. So simply click on this. So right now what happened is that we have one and only one object right here. So basically those two layers became only one. So basically we have one layer. If I delete this layer, I will delete the two of them. So basically, as you can see here, I only have one layer, which is pretty cool in my opinion. The problem with this is that, for example, if you want to add modifications to, well, if you want to add modifications to only one layer, it's gonna be hard to do, because once again you have merged two layers together. As you can see right now, it's pretty simple. It's just two pictures together. But let's say, for example, it's a huge amount of pictures that you just have merged together to create only one layer. You'll see it's pretty complicated to work with. Another thing with putting two layers together is that, for example, if you decide to make them bigger, it's not gonna be a smart object like those layers right here. So basically it will lose its resolution. So you need to be sure of what you're doing. When exactly can this work? So basically merging two layers together, when exactly this can work? Two or more than two layers together. Let's say, for example, you have finished your project and you want to export your project, and you want to have, or you just want to have a copy of the project. You can merge all the layers together and you will have one final copy of the project, for example, once again, but you need to be sure at 100% that everything is perfect. But once again, I personally don't suggest to merge layers. First of all, because it's not, well, not it's not worth it, but you have many of other ways to work with layers without necessarily merging them and achieve the same results. So basically, I can have two layers right here. For example, the two layers are right there. I can put it one next to the other and I will have the same result. So basically, this is pretty much the same thing working with those right here or working with those layers right here is pretty much the same thing, but I have full control on the layers right here. I can unmerge them, I can move them. Those one right here, they're pretty much one object, so I can do nothing with them. So in my opinion, you should not necessarily, well, there are some moments when you can merge your layers, but in my opinion, it's not really worth it. You can work without necessarily having to merge your layers. So I hope you guys learned a little bit more. So as I said at the beginning of the course, linking groups. So this is the first part that we talked about. So basically we talked about groups and the advantages of working with groups. And also about layers and what exactly you can do with layers when you merge them and why it's not a good idea to merge them together. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class. Hello guys, and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to Photoshop. So in today's class, we are going to learn how to use a simple tool that we have on Photoshop, and we are also going to learn how to cut pictures and merge pictures together. So pretty simple. What exactly you need for this class is simply a layer with one picture. So for the purpose of this class, we are going to use the layer right here. So basically what you can see here is that this layer is a smart object. And what we want to do with this layer is pretty simple. We want to cut it in 4 pieces and simply place those 4 pieces in each corner of the picture. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. So what we'll do to be able to do this, well, the first step is pretty simple, is simply transform our smart object into a normal layer. How exactly do we do this? It's pretty simple. So we are going to right click right there. So not on the thumbnail, but on the text part. And from there, what we want to do is pretty simple. We are simply going to click on rasterize layer. So from there, we have rasterized our layer. What we can do now, we can bring the modifications that we want to our layer. And what we are going to use as a tool to be able to cut our layer in, well, in 4 pieces, it's pretty simple, is the tool right here. So basically it's a rectangular marquee tool. So let's start. So pretty simple, we are going to start by the piece right here. And what we can do right now, we can simply move this piece. So pretty simple, we have selected our piece that we want to move. Now what we want to move, now what we want to do, we simply want to take it away. So here we have taken away our piece. As you can see, we have one piece right here. So right now it's not that beautiful, so we are going to try it again. So pretty simple. We are going to select our piece right there. And here we go. We have just cutted our piece. We'll do the same thing right here. So pretty simple. We're cutting out this piece right there. And we can move it. So basically, this tool is pretty simple. It's a tool that is used to crop a picture. So what we are going to do, what we are doing right now, we're simply cropping a picture. Well, the picture that we have. So here we go. And finally, the last one is the one right here. So what we want to do is simply select it and move it as well. Here we go. All right, so right now we have 4 pieces. The only matter with this is that those 4 pieces are part of one and same layer. In other words, let's say, for example, let's say I want to move one part of the picture. Well, I can't. It's gonna move the whole layer together. So basically, those 4 parts of the picture are staying, well, became the same layer. So basically, if I want to be able to move each part of the picture, what I need to do is simply create a separate picture for each of those layers. So let's do it. So pretty simple. we'll just click on Control Z to bring everything together, and we are going to cut it in 2 pieces. It's gonna be way more simpler. So pretty simple. So here we go. We'll cut it in 2 pieces. So right now we have our piece right here. We'll click on Control X, come back here and click on Control V. So as you can see, we have our 2 pieces. So we have the first part of the layer and the second part of the layer. So we have our 2 parts of the layer. What we can do right now is pretty simple. We can work with each part separately. And as you can see, we can put them back together. So if we, for example, want to work with the picture as a whole, what we can do, we can merge them together, as we've learned in the first, in the past course. So we can merge the layers together, or simply create a group where we are going to work with those 2 layers together. Or if we want to have our picture back, well, in this case, what we can do is simply put back the layers together. So let's say, for example, for our project, we want to crop our picture in 2 pieces, so something like this. And what we want to do, we want to have our picture that looks like this. So what we'll do right now is pretty simple. We can simply take those 2 layers together and simply merge them. So in this case, we are going to look for this, well, for this option right here. Click on it, and as you can see, those two pictures became 1 layer together. So as I explained to you guys, merging layers is not always, well, it's not the best thing to do. In my opinion, I always prefer to work with separate layers because it's more simpler. In this case, we only have cut the picture in 2, so it's not a big deal. So it's pretty simple to create 2 layers with those 2 pictures. But in the case that you guys have a lot of details and a lot of things that you want to work with, it's not a good idea to put everything together and to merge it. So pretty important. You can work with, you can work with each part of the picture separately. So in a separate layer for each part of the picture. Another thing, when you have, for example, in this case, we worked with 1 picture. So what we can do, well, we started with 1 smart object. So the first thing that I would suggest you guys to do is take your smart object and duplicate it. In the case that what you did with the first smart object is not that good, or you don't like it, instead of clicking on Control Z and coming back, well, you already have another smart object, and you can just delete the past other layers. So those are just little tips that I personally use. Besides of that, I think we have you guys had a complete introduction to layers and what you can do with this. Yes, you can do some more advanced things with layers, but once again, those are, since it's just an introductionary level course, my goal here is not to try to make experts from you about Photoshop, but just really to teach you the basics, and so this way you will be able to create projects with this. So right now you should have all the basics that you know about layers. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class.